Hello, today we are going to be talking about the second episode of House of the Dragon Season 2, entitled Rhaenyra the Cruel. Was I the only one where the episode title didn't show up on the HBO streaming site for a minute there? It was kind of weird, but anyway. So there will be spoilers for the episode itself, and Fire and Blood, the book that House of Dragon is based off of. So, I divided this review up into the good, the bad, the meh, and then some cool book stuff that we'll talk about later on. Alrighty, so the episode opens up in the Red Keep after Aegon and Helena's son Jaehaerys is killed. We see people being led out of the castle as guards search for the suspect. Aegon rages while Alicent and Otto try to make sense of everything. So Otto brings up the idea of having a public funeral to drum up sympathy for the Green faction. Aegon and Helena are understandably not fans of this idea, and Alicent seems reluctant, but goes with it. The grieving parents' wishes are ignored, and the funeral goes on. One thing that I want to talk about here is that Helena is portrayed as neurodivergent. The writers and cast do a good job showing how the attention of the crowd, plus her emotional state, obviously, having just watched her child be murdered, it all contributes to Helena feeling very overwhelmed. She just wants to retreat, kind of hide, to be left alone to her grief. If she wants to hide, Aegon wants to fight. We see him torturing one of the killers. I think it was Blood. The writers do a good job of kind of balancing out like the petty side of his anger and like the genuine grief. Once again, Fia Sabin and Tonglen Carney provide really good performances here. They're kind of like the standout of the season so far for me. Okay, so another element that makes Teen Green really interesting for me is how the writers capture a really complex family dynamic. There's a lot of intergenerational trauma here. Okay, so to fully explain this, let's back it on up a bit. Okay, so Otto, the guy who suggested the public funeral, is Alicent's father. Back in Season 1, or about 20 years ago in the show timeline, I want to say, he set her up with the previous king, Viserys, to further his ambition of having his blood on the throne. So Alicent and Viserys had Aegon, Helena, Aemond, and Daeron. That last name, I want you to remember it, because it's going to come up in a minute. She was very young when this marriage happened, like teenager young. She was a child raising children. Viserys didn't seem really close to his children that he had with Alicent. He was kind of inconsistent. He seemed to favor Rhaenyra a lot, who is the leader of Team Black. She didn't have a lot of support being a teen mom who's essentially on her own, and a lot of distress that this caused her impacted how she relates to her children. So one example of this is when Aegon breaks down and cries finally towards the end of the episode after, he's trying to process the grief. She doesn't know how to comfort him. She sees him upset, and you can tell by the look on her face that she's upset for him, but she doesn't know how to comfort him. So what she does do is she finds Kristen Cole and she slaps him because she feels like he's pushing Aegon towards a war that's going to ultimately cause their family more grief and put Aegon in danger. So her and Otto both struggle with expressing love and emotion in a warm and healthy way, and this kind of translates into, like I just said, how Alicent is with her kids and also how the kids are with each other. So Aegon and Helena walk past each other after the funeral procession, and they share a look, but they don't talk. It's important to note that they didn't want to be married in the first place. They have to kind of work through the grief of losing their child while being both spouses and siblings. In case you somehow didn't know, the Targaryens, they're very incestuous. This is your daily reminder that the Targaryens are hella weird. Okay, so speaking of Alicent and her feelings, this episode did help me get an idea of where they may be going with her and Kristen Cole's relationship that they started this season. Okay, so Alicent is very religious, and she struggles with her attraction to Cole. And when things start going bad for her family, she starts to blame herself for acting on these feelings, wondering if her sinning is the cause of all the misfortune befalling everyone. So Kristen is religious, and he tries to cope with his guilt for everything that's going on by kind of lashing out at people and trying to shift the blame. There's a lot of them trying to deal with like what being in a intimate relationship but not being married means in the Middle Ages, especially for religious people like them. It's interesting. So now that we know how Team Green is holding up, let's look at Team Black. So they hold a small council meeting, and Rhaenyra is kind of confused about what's going on. So as far as she knows, she only ordered the death of Aemond. But now there's a small child that was just killed. So she pieces together that Daemon must have done something, and she confronts him about what exactly he asked Blood and Cheese to do. She calls him out for putting her into a precarious position in terms of public relations. I really like this scene. Emma Darcy and Matt Smith have a really good chemistry here. The argument is very interesting to follow. So they discuss what happened to little Jaehaerys, and then they also the argument kind of moves on to their relationship as a whole. So Rhaenyra had feelings for Daemon, who was her uncle from a young age. It kind of created this weird power imbalance. She wonders if he truly respects her and sees her as an equal. She asks him if he truly accepts her as a queen. They argue about why Viserys wanted Rhaenyra to succeed him instead of Daemon. It's a good scene, and I enjoyed Rhaenyra calling him out. On the other side of the relationship health spectrum, we see Corlys and Rhaenys snuggling and talking. They're kind of talking about what's going on, giving their insights into the political situations of Team Black. They're very cute. They are very calm. I don't know how to explain it, but they feel like the adults in the room, if that makes sense. It's like you can go to them for advice. I don't know how to explain it. So we also get to see Rhaenyra's son Jace and Corlys and Rhaenys' granddaughter Bella interact. So they're betrothed, and it's kind of good to see them interacting and the writers building up that relationship. And I also like getting to see the younger generation's view of everything that's going on in the war so far. There's some interesting threads kind of hinted at with their relationship to Daemon, and then Jacaerys' relationship to Harwin Strahd, his biological father, and Laenor Velaryon, his adopted dad. I remember in season 1, I think this is also kind of a plot point for Jace, was how he felt about being adopted and being a bastard. They don't really seem to have fleshed it out from what I can remember. Hopefully they'll do that more this season, because I think that can be a very interesting dynamic, how he feels about his two father figures, how he feels about his mom in that situation. In the mainline series, there's some interesting stuff that they do with Jon Snow, for example, and how he feels about all that, and it would be an interesting parallel. Alrighty, another thing that I really like this episode is how we get to see how the common people are being impacted by the war preparations. So, last episode, in the premiere, we meet Alan of Hall and Hugh the blacksmith. So, Alan is a sailor in Corlys' fleet, and, as I just said, Hugh is a blacksmith in King's Landing. So, Alan just kind of wants to chill at home with his family, which includes his brother Adam, who we meet this episode. Hugh is trying to take care of his wife and his sick daughter amongst food shortages. We also get another scene with Mysaria. She talks to Rhaenyra about how she became kind of this source of information for the elite of King's Landing, and we really feel for her. She kind of rose up from nothing and is kind of dealing with how much danger this situation puts her in. It's really interesting. Okay, so now on to what I didn't like. So Kristen is not really that fun in this episode. So it's brought up how it seems like he didn't have a plan for if somebody tried to break in to the Red Keep, like Blood and Cheese did. So villains and antagonists not accounting for things is a very common way for protagonists to execute a plan, but it doesn't feel like this is a case of Team Black outwitting Team Green. It feels like he made it way too easy for someone to break in. I mean, like, yeah, he couldn't have predicted it, but from this last episode, it seemed like the whole team kind of knew that Rhaenyra might want revenge for Luke, and that it was very likely she would try something. He should have accounted for that and planned for extra security, even if he wasn't going to be on shift. Okay, so there are some interesting things thrown in here with his character, too, that I want to talk about. So it seems like he kind of has a manipulative streak. So he manipulates Eric Cargill under disguises of his twin brother, Eric, confusing names, I know, to sneak in to Dragonstone and kill Rhaenyra. He does this by making Eric feel like he let the royal family down by not sufficiently protecting Helaena and her children. Now, Eric was just a king at the time, and as Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, the buck stops with Kristen, like I said, he should have planned, he should have managed his staff. It's interesting to see him try to spin a situation and come up with a plan to try to win back favor with Aegon. In the books, Kristen, he's called the Kingmaker. He played a really big role in getting Aegon crowned in the first place. So I wonder if they're going to develop his kind of like savvy, manipulative side this season. It'll be very interesting. Okay, and then speaking of Aegon's favor, this episode, we see the Hand of the King position change. So Otto Hightower is fired. So basically, Aegon found out that either Blood or Cheese, I can't remember who, was a rat catcher. And so, because he didn't know which rat catcher it was, he had all of the rat catchers killed. Otto is shocked by the violence. And he's also shocked when he found out that Aegon agrees with Kristen's plan for killing Rhaenyra on Dragonstone. This scene might click better with me if I rewatch it, because the line of being appalled at the violence and being mad that Aegon made Team Green look bad by hanging people in the street is kind of blurry. It's like, what are you feeling here? What's going on? So Aegon tells Otto that he's tired of being cautious, and that if Otto won't help him avenge his son, he'll pick a hand of the king who will. Kristen gets the job, as you can probably guess, since he seems to be all in on let's go kill people. So Otto goes to talk to Alicent about this news, and during this talk, the audience gets our first mention of Daeron. Okay, remember how I said you want to pay attention to one of those names? Did I mention earlier when I was talking about Alicent and Viserys' children? Okay, so if you only watch the show, you might be a little bit confused here. So, he is Alicent and Viserys' younger son, and both in the show and in the books, he's squiring in Old Town. I don't remember in the books if it was for Alicent's brother or for her uncle, Otto's brother, and I don't remember in the episode. But either way, we have confirmation that he exists in the show, and I don't think he's going to be introduced this season because there wasn't any casting news for Daeron Targaryen, but he should be in the next season, maybe? It'd be really cool. Alrighty, so overall, I really like seeing the dynamics of Team Green and Team Black, and I also like seeing the small folk and how they're being affected by everything that's going on. I didn't really like Kristen not being necessarily the most fun villain. Like, he's not interesting, he's just kind of, I don't know. And then, Kristen and Otto overall, like, I'm not quite sure what to make of them. It's going to depend on the next few episodes, how I feel. So my overall rating is a solid 8 to a light 9. It's a very good episode. I'm excited for the rest of the season. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And then because I did this like a PowerPoint, I included a little image source slide because I'm a dork. Alrighty, but thank y'all so much. Hope to see y'all next time.